Question 1. While examining a production mail server used by a medium-sized enterprise, the system administrator notices that many legitimate emails are being marked as spam, especially those from trusted partners. SBF and DKIM records are correctly set up, and the internal spam assassin score thresholds are standard. However, these trusted sources are still hitting high spam scores. The administrator confirms that no recent configuration changes were made to Postfix or Dovecot. What is the most appropriate next step? A. Lower the spam score threshold in Spam Assassin to allow more emails through. Add the IP addresses of trusted partners to a global whitelist and configure Postfix accordingly. C. Disable DKIM and SBF checks to reduce false positives. D. Switch from Postfix to SendMail for more granular spam controls. Answer. Correct answer, B. Add the IP addresses of trusted partners to a global whitelist and configure Postfix accordingly. Explanation. When legitimate emails are incorrectly marked as spam, especially from known and trusted sources, whitelisting their IP addresses is the safest and most targeted solution. Spam Assassin and Postfix support this via client access maps or using check client access in AED recipient restrictions. Lowering the spam score threshold option can introduce false negatives, letting actual spam through. Disabling DKIMs for option C compromises email security. Switching to SendMail option D won't resolve misclassification without precise tuning and introduces unnecessary migration risk. Question 2. Through careful analysis of network traffic using ECDump, a security analyst notices intermittent SYN packets to a web server but without corresponding ACK replies. There is also a growing number of half-open connections in the server logs. What is the most probable issue? A. The web server is using an outdated SSL protocol version. B. A SYN flood DOS attack is being carried out against the server. C. The DNS records of the web server are misconfigured. D. The server's network interface is misconfigured with the wrong entity. Answer. Correct answer. B. A SYN flood DOS attack is being carried out against the server. Explanation. SYN flood attacks exploit TCP's three-way handshake. Attackers send numerous SYN packets and never respond to SYN-ACK replies, exhausting the server's connection queue. This causes many half-open connections. ECDump helps detect these by showing an abundance of SYNs with no follow-up ACKs. Options and D relate to connection stability, not state accumulation. ENS misconfiguration option C affects name resolution, not TCP connection establishment. Question 3. Maria, a Linux administrator, is configuring VLANs on a server with multiple NICs. She uses the IP command to create VLAN subinterfaces on ETH, such as ETH.10 and ETH.20, and assigns IP addresses correctly. However, she finds that VLAN tagging is not being recognized by the switch the server connects to. What must Maria check first? A. Ensure the VLAN kernel module 8020 is loaded on the server. B. Enable IP routing to ensure compatibility. C. Use route instead of IP to manage VLANs. D. Reboot the system to reload the network stack. Answer. Correct answer A. Ensure the VLAN kernel module 8020 is loaded on the server. Explanation. For VLAN tagging to function on Linux, the 8020 kernel module must be loaded without its subinterfaces like ETH.10 are not handled as VLAN aware. If routing, option B, is unrelated. The route command, option C, is deprecated and not VLAN aware. Rebooting, option D, is unnecessary if the correct module isn't loaded in the first place. Question 4. The impact of configuring an air server with improperly set zone transfer permissions could result in which of the following vulnerabilities? A. High latency in DNS propagation. B. Exposure of internal domain data to unauthorized entities. C. Failure to resolve CNAME records. D. Repeated SIG key negotiation failures. Answer. Correct answer. B. Exposure of internal domain data to unauthorized entities. Explanation. If zone transfers AXFA are not restricted to trusted secondary DNS servers, attackers can retrieve a complete list of internal host names and IPs, facilitating network mapping. Proper configuration using binds allow transfer directive mitigates this. Latency, option A, and CNAME resolution, option C, are unrelated. SIG, option, involves DSEC and secure transactions, not general zone transfers. Question 5. Mr. Thompson is troubleshooting a user complaint about intermittent email delivery issues in a Postfix plus Dovecot setup. Upon investigation, he notices emails are stuck in the mail queue and not relayed to external domains. The logs show deferred. Name server timeout. What should Mr. Thompson investigate next? A. DNS resolver configuration in ecresolve.conf. B. SAP authentication settings in Dovecot. C. MX records of the local domain. D. Disk space availability in Varspool postfix. Answer. Correct answer A. DNS resolver configuration in ecresolve.conf. Explanation. The error deferred. Name server timeout suggests that postfix cannot resolve domain names, a clear ENS issue. Ecresolve.conf should point to valid, reachable ENS servers SAP auth. Option B relates to incoming mail. Local MX records, option C, are irrelevant for outbound mail. Disk space issues, option D, would raise different errors like no space left on device. Question 6. According to recent studies, relying solely on iptables for firewall configuration in modern Linux systems has limitations. What is a major advantage of using nftables over iptables? A. nftables supports only if, making it simpler. B. nftables uses separate tables for each protocol family, reducing security. C. nftables introduces a unified rule syntax for if and if. D. nftables requires kernel recompilation for every change. Answer. Correct answer. C. nftables introduces a unified rule syntax for if and if. Explanation. One key advantage of nftables is its unified syntax, allowing administrators to manage both if and if rules within the same structure. This reduces redundancy and complexity. Option is incorrect. Ftable supports both if and if. Option B is false. Unification is strength, not weakness. Option D is wrong. Ftable changes are applied dynamically. Question 7. Fatima notices degraded performance on a file server. Using IOStat, she observes that await times for one disk are significantly higher than others, and the util percentage remains over 90%. What should be her immediate conclusion? A. The system has insufficient swap memory. B. The disk is experiencing a hardware fault or bottleneck. C. The CPU is under heavy load. D. Network saturation is affecting disk performance. Answer. Correct answer. B. The disk is experiencing a hardware fault or bottleneck. Explanation. Higher weight and util in IOStat indicates the disk is slow to respond. Typical sign of EO bottlenecks. This can stem from hardware issues, high IOPS workloads, or failing drives. Swap memory, option A, would affect system memory, not disk EO directly. EPU and network load, C and D, are irrelevant to IOStat disk latency metrics. Question 8. From a practical standpoint, configuring public key authentication for SSH increases security primarily because A. Passwords are hashed instead of transmitted in plain text. B. It reduces the number of open ports on the system. C. Brute force attacks on passwords become ineffective. D. It encrypts all data transmitted over T. Answer. Correct answer. C. Brute force attacks on passwords become ineffective. Explanation. Public key authentication eliminates the need for password-based logins, thus making brute force password attacks ineffective. SSH keys are much harder to crack due to asymmetric encryption, while option, as true in general, is not unique to SSH keys. Option B is false. SSH uses port 22 regardless. Option D conflate SSH to IT. Question 9. Alex configures a network bonding setup using mode equals 1, active backup for redundancy between two NICs. However, he notices that even when the primary interface fails, traffic doesn't automatically switch to the secondary. What is a likely misconfiguration? A. Missing IP address on the secondary interface. B. MI or up monitoring not configured on the bond. C. It is disabled on the system. D. Network manager is not restarted after configuration. Answer. Correct answer. B. MI or up monitoring not configured on the bond. Explanation. In bonding, mode 1, link monitoring must be configured so the kernel detects failure and switches interfaces. Without it, failover does not occur. IP addresses are assigned to the bond, not individual NICs, so is irrelevant if C is unrelated. Restarting network manager. D helps only if it's managing the interface. Question 10. In summary of the tools available for DNS troubleshooting, which command provides detailed information about DNS query recursion, authority, and response time? A. Netstat. B. DigC, traceroute. D. ifconfig. Answer. Correct answer. B. Dig explanation. Dig domain information Groper gives in-depth information about DNS queries including authority answer sections, query time, and flags like recursion is the preferred tool over ENS lookup. Netstat is for socket info. Traceroute. C tracks packet routes. ifconfig. D shows interface details, not address. Question 11. Based on the information, Jordan, a system administrator, observes frequent packet drops on a Linux server during heavy network load upon running SS. As he notices high numbers of TCP retransmissions, he suspects a bottleneck in network performance. Which steps should Jordan take first to accurately identify the network bottleneck? A. Use ISStat to check disk I/O performance. B. Examine the output of Netstat. I for interface errors and collisions. C. Restart the network service to clear cached connections. D. Increase the size of the server's TCP receive buffer. Answer. Correct answer. B. Examine the output of Netstat. I for interface errors and collisions. Explanation. High TCP retransmissions often indicate packet loss, which could be due to physical interface errors or collisions. Checking interface statistics with Netstat. IRIP. S-Link helps confirm if network hardware is the cause. While disk I/O affects overall system performance, it's unrelated to TCP retransmissions. Restarting the network. C. Won't diagnose the issue. Increasing TCP buffers. D. May help throughput, but does not address packet loss sources. Question 12. With respect to policy-based routing, Maria wants to route traffic from a specific source IP through a non-default gateway without affecting other traffic. She has added a routing table and configured IP rule at 192.168.1.100 table 200. However, traffic from the IP is still routed via the default gateway. What is a likely cause? A. Missing a default route in routing table 200. B. The kernel does not support policy-based routing. C. Incorrect netmask configured on the source IP address. D. Firewall rules are blocking routing table 200. Answer. Correct answer. A. Missing a default route in routing table 200. Explanation. Policy routing requires the custom routing table 200 to have a complete set of routes, including a default route to direct traffic properly. Without a default route in table 200, traffic will fall back to the main routing table. Kernel support for policy routing. B is standard in Linux. Netmask issues. C. Effect address assignment, not tables directly. Firewall. D. Affects packet filtering, not route selection. Question 13. In the absence of centralized logging infrastructure, Sam wants to analyze a sudden increase in failed SSH login attempts on his server. Which log file and approach should Sam prioritize? A. Varlagauth. Log or varlag secure using grep. Failed password to identify brute force attempts. B. Varlag syslog to check kernel panic messages. C. Varlag messages to find network interface reset logs. D. Varlag mesk to analyze disk I/O errors. Answer. Correct answer. A. Varlagauth. Log or varlag secure using grep. Failed password to identify brute force attempts. Explanation. SSH authentication attempts including failures are logged in Varlagauth. Log Debian Ubuntu or Varlag secure Red Hat CentOS. Searching these logs for failed password entries identifies brute force or unauthorized access attempts. Syslog, B, and messages, C, contain generic system info, not focused auth. Dmisk, D, relates to kernel ring buffer, usually hardware events. Question 14. When considering VLAN tagging on a Linux server connected to a switch, which configuration step is essential to ensure proper VLAN traffic handling? A. Set the switch port connected to the server to trunk mode allowing all VLANs. B. Assign a UEAT MAC address to each VLAN interface manually. C. Disable spanning tree protocol on the server's NIC. D. Configure the server's firewall to block VLAN-tagged packets. Answer. Correct answer A. Set the switch port connected to the server to trunk mode, allowing all VLANs. Explanation. For VLAN tags created on the server to be recognized and forwarded properly, the switch port must be configured as a trunk port, permitting VLAN tags for the relevant VLAN IDs. Assigning MAC addresses manually. B is unnecessary, as the interface inherits the physical NICs MAC. Disabling STP. C risks loops, blocking VLAN packets on file. D defeats VLAN functionality. Question 15. Given the circumstances of mail administrator uses PostQ, PM finds a large number of messages stuck in the mail queue. Inspection shows many have deferred. Connect to. Connection timed out. What is the likely cause and best course of action? A. The SAP port 25 is blocked outbound on the firewall. Verify and open it. B. The mail server's DNS zone file is corrupted. Rebuild it. C. The mail delivery agent MDA is misconfigured. D. The local mail user quota has been exceeded. Answer. Correct answer A. The SAP port 25 is blocked outbound on the firewall. Verify and open it. Explanation. Timeouts connecting to remote SAP servers usually indicate network issues such as firewall blocking outbound port 25. This prevents postfix from establishing SAP connections to destination servers. ENS zone issues. B. An MDA config. C. Wouldn't cause connection timeouts. Mail user quotas. D. Block local delivery, not outgoing relay. Question 16. Within the framework of Secure Shell SSH best practices, which configuration change most effectively reduces the risk of brute force attacks? A. Disabling password authentication and enabling public key authentication exclusively. B. Increasing the SSH port number to above 1024. C. Enabling AX forwarding to monitor graphical logins. D. Adding the user root to the sudoers file for faster escalation. Answer. Correct answer A. Disabling password authentication and enabling public key authentication exclusively. Explanation. Disabling password authentication forces use of public private keys, which are far harder to brute force than passwords. Changing the port. B is security through obscurity and not effective alone. X forwarding. C adds risk by forwarding graphical sessions. Adding root to sudoers. D increases risk, violating principle of least privilege. Question 17. The general consensus is that network bonding in mode equals 4 802.3 requires what critical external component to function properly. A switch that supports and is configured for LAC. B. Disabling all VLAN tagging on the bonded interfaces. C. Static IP assignment on each physical NIC. D. Enabling it on the bonding device. Answer. Correct answer A. A switch that supports and is configured for LAC. Explanation. Mode 4 bonding uses LAC, Link Aggregation Control Protocol, requiring the connected switch to also support and be configured for LAC to aggregate links effectively. Without it, bonding will not balance traffic or provide redundancy. VLAN tagging. B is unrelated. Static IPO individual NICs. C is incorrect. It appears on bond. D is unrelated to bonding mode. Question 18. During the process of troubleshooting a slow NFS mount, Sophie notices the mount options include sync and no. She wonders about the impact. What is the consequence of these options on performance? A. They improve performance by caching writes and attribute data. B. They reduce performance by forcing synchronous writes and disabling attribute caching. C. They enable encryption for NFS traffic. D. They allow anonymous mounts from any client. Answer. Correct answer. B. They reduce performance by forcing synchronous writes and disabling attribute caching. Explanation. Sync forces every write to be committed to stable storage before reply, increasing reliability but reducing speed. Note disables attribute caching on clients, increasing server load and reducing performance. These options are often used to ensure data integrity at the cost of throughput. They do not enable encryption. C or D. Question 19. from multiple perspectives when using ECDump to analyze network issues. What is a critical consideration to avoid misleading results? A. Always run EDump on the client, never on the server. B. Capture traffic on the correct network interface, considering virtual bridges and VLANs. C. Filter only up traffic. SysTCP is always reliable. D. Use EDump with the C1 flag to capture a single packet for thorough analysis. Answer. Correct answer. B. Capture traffic on the correct network interface, considering virtual bridges and VLANs. Explanation. To accurately capture and analyze traffic, you must select the correct network interface, because modern Linux systems often use bridges, bonds, or VLAN subinterfaces. Capturing on the wrong interface yields incomplete or misleading data. Option is incorrect. Capturing can be useful on any host. Filtering only C. Ignores important TCP traffic. Capturing only one packet. D. Is rarely sufficient. Question 20. Taking into account the architecture of bin DNS servers, what is the function of the SOA start of authority record in AON file? They defines the IP address of the DNS server for the zone. B. Specifies the primary name, server, and zone metadata, including serial number and refresh time. C. Lists all authorized mail servers for the domain. D. Maps host names to IP addresses. Answer. Correct answer. B. Specifies the primary name, server, and zone metadata, including serial number and refresh time. Explanation. The SOA record is essential in DNS zones. It designates the primary authoritative DNS server for the zone and contains metadata such as the zone's serial number to track changes, refresh, retry, and expiry timers for secondary servers. Option is the NS record role. MX. C is mail servers. D is for IP addresses. Question 21. A detailed analysis of system logs reveals that users connected to an NFS share are experiencing slow file reads. The administrator suspects metadata caching issues. Which mount option should be reviewed or modified to improve performance without compromising data integrity too severely? A. Node B. Sync C. Actimo D. Row. Answer. Correct answer. C. Actimo. Explanation. The Actimo option controls attribute cache timeout for NFS, allowing tuning of how long file metadata is cached on the client side. A higher value improves performance, while Note disables caching entirely, reducing performance. Sync forces synchronous writes, which impacts performance. Row mounts the share as read-only and does not address caching. Question 22. Anthony is monitoring SAP traffic on his mail gateway using EEDump. He filters packets using port 25 but sees no responses from external mail servers. After confirming DNS and postfix configs are correct, which other areas should he investigate next? A. Ensure that ENS recursion is disabled on the server. B. Confirm that outbound port 25 is allowed through the firewall or cloud security group. C. Check if postfix is running as a non-root user. D. Investigate the system swap usage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Confirm that outbound port 25 is allowed through the firewall or cloud security group. Explanation. In many environments, especially cloud platforms like Oz or Azure, outbound port 25 is blocked by default to prevent spam. Even with perfect ENS and MTA configurations, SAP traffic won't reach external servers if blocked. Recursion A. Affects DNS clients. Postfix running as non-root. C. Doesn't block outbound SAP. Swap usage. D. Affects performance, not network connectivity. Question 23. To better understand it for routing, a sysadmin uses IP-6 route to view the routing table. He notices an entry like fee1deveth. What does this entry indicate? A default route for all IP traffic. B. A link local route for the local network segment. C. A static host route to an external subnet. D. An automatically learned DNS server route. Answer. Correct answer. B. A link local route for the local network segment. Explanation. Fee 10 addresses. A link local IP address is used for communication between nodes on the same link. The route fee 1deveth shows a next hop gateway on the same link. It is not a default route and it's not static host route or related to DNS. CT. Question 24. The question remains whether disabling reverse DNS lookups in a bind server would impact performance. Which of the following is most accurate? A. It significantly reduces outgoing mail delivery time. B. It reduces response time for queries unrelated to reverse lookups. C. It stops the resolution of all forward DNS zones. D. It causes the resolver to use TCP instead of OTP. Answer. Correct answer. B. It reduces response time for queries unrelated to reverse lookups. Explanation. Disabling reverse DNS lookups in bind can improve performance by reducing unnecessary PTR queries, especially for services that don't need client IP resolution. It does not affect forward resolution. C. Nor change protocol from TCP. D. It doesn't directly impact outgoing mail. A. Which still relies on forward and reverse records. Question 25. Lena is configuring Postfix to use ELS for secure mail transmission. After setting AE security level equals May, she observes some mails still travel unencrypted. What should she configure to ensure mandatory encryption when sending emails? A. Change AES file to a stronger key. B. Able SES security level equals encrypt for outgoing connections. CSET DLS equals yes only. D. Remove the TLS configuration to allow opportunistic SSL. Answer. Correct answer. B. Able SES security level equals encrypt for outgoing connections. Explanation. To enforce encryption on outgoing mail, Postfix must ASES security level equals encrypt set. SEE security level affects incoming mail, not outbound. Opportunistic LS may doesn't guarantee encryption. Using stronger cert A does not enforce TLS. Option D removes security. Question 26. In contrast to Apache, Nginx uses an event-driven model. What is the primary performance advantage of this model in high concurrency environments? A. It allows Nginx to automatically cache every file. B. It spawns a new thread for each incoming request. C. It handles thousands of connections with a small number of worker processes. D. It limits request rates using htaccess files. Answer. Correct answer. C. It handles thousands of connections with a small number of worker processes. Explanation. Nginx's event-driven architecture enables it to manage many simultaneous connections efficiently using non-blocking EO and fewer workers, as opposed to Apache's thread per request model. Nginx does not automatically cache it, and it does not spawn per thread. B. It doesn't use htaccess. D. at all. Question 27. The most significant aspect of Selinux in enforcing security is its A. Ability to replace all file permissions with ACLs. B. Mandatory access control MAC model over discretionary models. C. Use of system call redirection for user tracking. D. Removal of root privileges from all system binaries. Answer. Correct answer. B. Mandatory access control MAC model over discretionary models. Explanation. Selinux implements a MAC model which enforces strict centrally defined access policies that even privileged users like root must follow. This is stronger than DAC, where users define access to their resources. Selinux does not rely on system call redirection. C. ACLs are complementary, and it doesn't remove root privileges. D. Control them. Question 20. The core principles of system performance monitoring include identifying resource bottlenecks, which tool gives real-time visibility into CPU, memory, and load averages. A. SAR. B. VMstat. C. Top. D. ISTAT. Answer. Correct answer. C. Top. Explanation. Top is the go-to utility for real-time monitoring, displaying CPU, memory, load average, and active processes interactively. VMTAC gives snapshot info, not interactive. ISTAT focuses on EO performance, and SAR shows historical performance if enabled. Question 29. From a historical standpoint, Itables has been the traditional firewall tool in Linux. Which statement correctly identifies a key structural difference between Itables and NFTables? A. Itables supports JSON-based rule configuration. B. NFTables uses tables and chains while Itables uses only chains. C. NFTables uses a virtual machine for packet filtering. D. Itables supports multiple protocol families in a single rule set. Answer. Correct answer. C. NFTables uses a virtual machine for packet filtering. Explanation: NFTables introduces a packet filtering virtual machine (VM) in the kernel, improving performance and flexibility. Iptables lacks this VM. Both tools use tables and chains, but NFTables combines multiple protocol families. JSON support is in NFTables, not Iptables. Question 30. Email configures bind for a new zone, but clients report intermittent resolution failures. After checking the zone file, he finds a typo in the serial number format. What is the impact of an invalid or unchanged serial number? A. Clients will receive corrupted responses from the DNS server. B. Secondary DNS servers may fail to detect updates. C. The zone file will be flushed from the DNS cache. D. The server will reject queries until restarted. Answer. Correct answer: B. Secondary DNS servers may fail to detect updates. Explanation: the serial number in ANSO record is critical for zone transfer synchronization. If not incremented, secondary servers won't update their data even if changes occur. It doesn't cause cache flushing. C. Query rejection. D. Or corrupted responses. A.